I'm Peter. So I'm from the Thales CDI from the mobile payment team. For me, myself, I've been working on iOS application and the last few years on the SDK, I would say for quite some time, since iOS 5 or 6, so 2012, along there. So a lot of technology, been working on it. So for this evening, I will explain more about the NFC. So the NFC itself is not really new, but this one is I would say, the first part of the thought I would like to share. The second part is more on the payment side of it, the contactless side of it. But I understand that we need to have the NFC, like we need to understand what is available in iOS in terms of the NFC in general. Let's not talk about the contactless part of it. And that is the goal of this sharing. Okay. So in terms of the scope, so I will cover what happened in the iOS NFC for the iOS 11, iOS 12, iOS 13. So 2017 to 2019, which is some time ago, but it was still fairly, I would say, very interesting API. Okay. Yeah, so let's just start. NFC, I will say everyone know NFC, everyone use NFC every day. Every time you tap, most likely is an NFC to anything, right? So, and nowadays it's available in all kind of form. So you have the card, you have the sticker or the tag, so all kind of form. That is in general the NFC. Then if we go into more details, so in general, NFC specification is more governing the communication between two devices, what we call the leader and the tag. So leader and tag over a short distance. So we are talking about a few centimeter, less than 4 or 5 centimeter, like that. When you tap, that's what when you tap, right? And in terms of the specification, there are several types. So from type 1 to type 5, which most likely is transparent to us end user. But there is a different protocol for the different tags. We will cover that next. And the simplest one is in terms of NFC, is what we call the NDEF tag. So it's a message, a common message for NFC that is a message format in short. And so we have the type, we have the NDEF, and that's basically NFC in the few minutes, like without going into too much details. And why I'm not going to details, because for iOS, Apple have this framework called CoreNFC, which I think some of us should heard of it already, right? And this encapsulates everything so that you don't need to know the details, whether it's type 1, type 2, or what. You just need to know what you want to do, and then you just use the API. And so in terms of the capability, it starts from the simplest one. iOS 11, it starts with you are able to read the NDEF tag, the simplest NFC usage, just a NDEF, just a message. Then after that, in the iOS 12, it goes to the next one, which is the background tag reading. And then eventually on the iOS 13, it provides the more capability to light the tag. It provides the capability to interact with NFC tag, not just the NDEF. So what do I mean by that, right? So let's go through it one by one from the simplest one. So NFC NDEF leader session. The only purpose is just like the name is to lead. In order to set up this, we will need to set the capability or entitlement in our S code to allow the NFC capability. And then we also need to set up the user's description, a string. After that, we are good to go in terms of the permission or signing capabilities. Okay. Then we start on the API. There is quite a lot of API, but if we go through it, it's quite straightforward. First one is just to check whether the device has the device has the NFC capability. Of course, you might think that it's 2025, all devices should already have NFC capability, but iPad doesn't have the NFC capability. So if you are developing for iOS and iPadOS, you will need to check this, because otherwise your iPad will not be working on APIs. Weird error. Okay, so if it's available, then we go to the next one. This one is to pop up the NFC scanning to begin the scan. And then when it detects the NFC, it will go to the delegate. There are two delegates. The first delegate is only to directly give you the NDEF message, because just now this is about NDEF. So it will just give you straight NDEF, this is the NDEF message. And then the second delegate is more flexible. It allows you to lead and light. So for here, if you are only lead, you will want to connect. So after you detect the tag, you connect. After you connect, you lead the NDEF tag, and then you get the same NDEF message that from the first delegate. Just that the second one, you can also use it to light. Okay. And then after that, you call the invalidate to end the session, to dismiss the NFC pop-up. Okay. So let's do a demo. Okay. So I have the Escort project here that I just created. I think I just now I missed it. So anyway, so first thing we need to do is to go to the signing capability. We will need to add the NFC. For this is a near field communication tag. So you add this. Okay. And then the second thing is you need to add the string. So the string here, you go to the build settings, you search for NFC. This will be one. Okay. This string is important. If you don't set it, like your application will just crash on during the runtime. So just remember to set it. You will compile the app successfully. Okay, so with that, we are done with the entitlement. Let's just add a few codes here. Let's import the CoreNFC. And I will import the combine also, because I will need to link my logic with my UI. Okay, so first thing, let's create the class for the NDEF. So I will check whether it's available, the device, the leading available. And then after that, I will do the scan. Of course, here it is complaining that I don't have the delegate. So let's do the delegate. Yes. Comment box. Yes. Okay, much bigger now, much better. So okay, so do the scan, and so here I will add my delegate. Okay, so in terms of delegate, as I mentioned just now, there are two delegates. So let's do a simpler one. Let's start with the simple one where it just gives you the NDEF message, and that's it. Right? So okay, and this is all the code you need to get the NDEF message. The delegate itself will return you the list of the NDEF message, because by API you can scan a several NFC NDEF tag at the same time. You can scan several, so that's why it returns you a list. In this case, I will just demo scan one. So you get the first one, and then after that you get the NDEF message. Let me add the describe. So it's just a utility method. Okay, so the describe is get the NDEF message. In general, the NDEF message, right, it will have several records. The records can have URL, it can have a text, it can have all kind of data. For this one, I will just show the URL and the text. Okay, so with that, I basically have my code to lead the NDEF tag. Now let's link up with the UI. Let's add a button. Let's add some list to view the okay. So with that, I have the app ready. So for the demo purpose, I have this NDEF tag. So this NDEF tag is a type 4 because it's for contactless payment actually, but it does contain the NDEF message that I preload before this meeting. So this is a type 4. You have the application there. If you tap the scan, so it will appear the UI. So at this point, the delegate is not called. You tap the card into the device. You will see that the payload that I loaded. The first one is the URL and the second one is the message. So it's as simple as that if you only want to get the NDEF message using the first delegate. So let's now go to the update our delegate code because I will show the lighting later. So I don't want to use this delegate. So let's comment on this code. You might think that let's just remove this delegate. You cannot because this one is a required delegate. This is introduced in iOS 11. It's a mandatory one. But you can add the optional one here. It's just that this one remain. When you add this one, the second one will not be called. So like this. Okay. Okay. Now the code is more a lot more, but you can do a lot more things, obviously. There is a benefit of it. So likewise here, you will see that it will lead the NDEF tag. So just now you are reading the NDEF message. Just now we are reading NDEF message. Now we are reading NDEF tag. There is a difference here because one is you get straight away the message. The second one is you get only the tag. And what we can do with the tag is you will need to connect because it's only a tag. iOS basically tell us that it detected the tag. If you don't connect, then nothing will happen. So you connect first. After that, you can check the NDEF status. This one is important because sometimes the status might be not supported. The NDEF doesn't support. And that's what you want to check here that is not supported. And some other time, maybe you want to write to the NDEF, but it doesn't support the write. It's a read only. So that's why it's important to check the NDEF status accordingly. After that, you just get the read NDEF and you are done. So you read the NDEF, then you're done. You get the NDEF message, then you can just update your app logic accordingly. Of course, for this demo purpose, I just print it, not the most fancy way. So let's run the app again. This time, my code is using the second delegate. I do a scan, same thing, I do a scan here. And you get the same message as the first one. Okay. So let's continue the session. So that is iOS 11. Then the next one in the 1 year after, what iOS Apple did is it added a small little feature called a background tab reading. What does this means is just now when I scan the NFC tag, there is a need for the pop-up window to appear. Right? For the background tab reading, there is no need. It will just scan when the device is on. So if I go back to the slide here, I close the app. There is no app running. I scan it. you will see there is a pop-up here. And that is what background tag reading is. Okay. Where you don't need the application to run. Okay. So here the important part is you want to support the universal link. Because if your application doesn't support universal link, the NDEF might contain your website or something, but you will not launch your application. You will just launch Safari to open the URL. So the first thing is you need to set up the universal link, to set up the Apple App Site Association in your website, everything set up. And then when the NDEF detected, it will immediately say that launch your application. And when it launches the application, you can use this method here, continue user activity, to get the NDEF payload. This one, I saw the Swift UI, but as you know, this is iOS 12. Of course, you have the API for scene delegate, app delegate. You have that. It's just all have. So use whichever that your application is using. Okay. And then from there, the user activity, you have the NDEF message payload, which is again the NDEF message. So let's do a quick demo again. For this one, first thing I need to do is I need to add my associated domain for universal link. So here I already have it. It was auto added just now, my previous demo. So I will add the associated domain here. If you want to test, some tips for here is if you want to test associated link, you want to add this. I'm not sure I cannot zoom in, but there is a mode here that you can say that is developer one. The reason is if you don't use developer, you will need to wait for Apple Content Delivery Network to slowly update. Then you will wait multiple days. But if you use this, and in your iPhone, you enable the developer associated domain, you can straight away test it. So just remember that. Not NFC related. Okay, so with that, I already have basically set up everything. I just need to get the user activity. Okay, so here on my view, I will just say that when it has continued user activity, I want a browsing web because this is a URL. My NDEF just now is the first point is URL, right? I get it. Then after that, it's the same flow as normal. Just print it in the text and you get what you get. So let me update the UI part. Okay, so with that, I have set up this one, and I set up just a normal standard UI just to print it. And then now let's run the application again. So for this one, let's do two tests. One is my application is not running. If I scan, so you can see it launch that, and if I launch the application, it will just go straight there, and then I get the NDEF message. So that is when application is not running. If application is running, it will still pop up. As long as the end user tap on the notification, you will still get the NDEF message. That is the background. Okay. Let's go back to the slide. Okay. the demo. And the next one, just now I mentioned in the beginning that I want to use delegate that can read and write because I want to show the write. So here is the write one. The write one is also very simple because Apple tried to provide the more friendly API. Instead of NDEF message itself has a lot of payload like bytes here, but there is a lot of Apple method from the CoreNFC that you can write like URL, text, and I think there is some more, but I'm not listing here. It here. Of course, if you want to have actual byte array, you can also do that if you want. It's more or less the same with the leading. You still need to connect. It's just that after connect, instead of leading the NDEF, you will call the write with the NDEF message itself. So just now you get the NDEF, now you provide the NDEF message back to the API. So very straightforward. With that, let's go back to the demo. So for the demo, what I will do is I will add another method. Because I will still need to scan the NDEF tag before I write. So I still need to call the begin scanning. It's just that in here, I add a simple logic to prepare the NDEF message before I scan. You can technically prepare it on the go after you detect the NDEF, but for this demo purpose, I prepare the NDEF message before I begin the scanning. I know beforehand. And I just print a simple URL here. Okay. And then in the delegate method, I will modify my logic slightly to detect whether I have the NDEF message. Let's replace that method. Okay. So here, if I detect there is a NDEF message to write, I will write the NDEF message. Otherwise, I go through the existing logic, which is read. So either write or read. With that, the logic is done. Now I just need to add a button to another button to scan to write. Let's run the application. And for this one, I cannot use this one because my type 4 here, this one is not writable NDEF tag. I will use another tag here. It's a small one, just a little dot here. This one is a type 2 NDEF tag, but you can write, so I will use this one. And let's just show that if I try to read, you will see that it has a message. There is no NDEF message because this is still empty. Okay. Then now I will write it. Okay. So you can see that it has similar UI between reading and writing. You just change the text whether you are reading or writing accordingly because the API is still the same. So I write already. Now if I read again, and you get the similar message, the one that I prepared just now in the here. Right, you get the same hello world from NFC NDEF, and you get the NFC NDEF. So that is how you write. So we cover read and write, which is already interesting, but for the NFC people, they will say that it's not enough because NFC itself is not just about NDEF. When we interact with the NFC in the real use case, there is a lot of protocol involved. There is a contactless protocol. There is a MIFARE protocol, which is this small tab. Then there is a FeliCa protocol for, like, if you go to Japan, their transport, a lot of it is using FeliCa tag. So there is a lot of different NFC tag that is not based on NDEF. Because if you only get the message, it's not enough. You need some kind of communication protocol to establish that you have the right, you authorize things like that. And that is where the tag leader here is important. And one way to visualize it here is, you can see just now I show how to read, how to write, but how about how to update, how to delete? You cannot keep writing, right? I mean, you cannot just keep override. You need to able to update it. At some point, you want to delete it, and that is where this class become important, the tag leader. Okay, so in terms of entitlement, it's more or less the same with the tag leader, NDEF leader session. But for some of the, depending on what kind of a protocol you want to interact with, you will need to add additional information to the info list. So like 7816, there is an application ID, Felica, there is a system code. I will not go into too much detail. It's just that for something, you need to add the ID. Okay. And this is the API, which is more or less the same with the NDEF leader session. It's just a different class, but now you are interacting with NFC tag. You still have the leading available. You still have the begin scanning. You still have the delegate, and you have the connect. Everything is pretty much the same. It's just here you are interacting with the NFC tag, not the NDEF tag. And the difference here after here is just now you get the NDEF, you either read or write. But here, after connection, you will get this NFC tag, which is the enum with the associated value. And the associated value will have the different class based on what kind of tag you are interacting with. So for some example here, for 7816, it will be 7816 tag. And then here you can send the APDU command. And I will try not to go into APDU, but it's another communication protocol. Okay. And then there is other classes here. So this one you can see there is a Felica, there is a MIFA. So if you ask me myself, I'm not familiar with this because I'm from payment. I know more about 7816. So my point here is most likely you don't need to know all the 4 classes. You just need to know which one you want to interact with, which kind of NFC that you support. And with that, let's go to the demo. Okay. So for the demo, I will create another class. For the NFC tag leader session. So you can see it's more or less the same. You check the leading available. Then after that, you begin the scanning. And then you still have the delegate. Okay, so very similar, delegate. It's just here now, all these 3 is mandatory because just now in the previous NDEF one, there's only 2 mandatory, but here, all 3 mandatory. The one that we are important to us is when it detect the tag. So for this demo, what I will show is, I will get the NDEF message that just now I showed, but I'm not going through the just now API. I will go through the APDU, which is a protocol for the ISO 7816, which is for the contactless payment. Okay. So I will add this, and let's go through it a bit. After I detect the tag, I will convert the enum, the associated value, to able to get the NDEF tag. Here, what I want to show is if you go to the enum value, there are other enum also, according to which tag that you are using. So you have the MIFA, you have the ISO 15693, and then you have the Felica tag on top. So for my demo, I just want to do this. So if I go back to my logic, if it's not available, I will just fail the whole thing. After that, if it is, I will connect to the tag, right? And then I will exchange the APDU. And what you see here, this is the complexity if you use APDU. It is more flexible. You can update, you can delete, you can communicate, like let's say what is the amount on the card and things like that. But just to get NDEF message, just now, if you remember, there's a one-liner code, there's a 10 lines. Here you are dealing with about 20 lines of code. You change the APDU one by one. There is at least 5 or 6 commands, because that is the actual command behind the scene for ISO 7816. If you use other tag, you still can get the NDEF, but again, different protocol, different flow. So here, after all those, we get the final one, which is the NDEF message. And if you see this NDEF response, it's still a byte array, but thank goodness that CoreNFC provide this. The same NDEF message class that just now I showed, it accepts the byte array, so that I don't need to pass the byte array again. Because otherwise you will have another 20 lines of code here to pass the NDEF with the record. Because again, the NDEF has the flow, how many record, it's kind of a DLV if you know about it. So I don't need to do that. So this one become one-liner. And then the rest is the same with the previous demo. I just call my utility to show the UI, and that's it. Right. So there's the logic. Let's go to the UI again. Let's add a similar one. So add the button again. I have my button, and then now I do the okay. So I'm done, but it is not done yet because I'm dealing with the ISO 7816. I cannot just anyhow scan any tag. It doesn't work that way. I need to add the permission into my info plist. So here, okay, I think it's too small. But anyway, here, I will just skip ahead. I will just type some ID here. You just remember there is an ID need to be entered. So the idea I added is just an ID, application ID for NDEF. So we have a different application ID for different things. All kind of card. It has an ID, just a universal ID identifier. Okay. With that, done. I can just run the application again. So I do use the third one. I scan this. You will see that I get the same payload here. So you might think that or more or less it's the same, but it's not, because we are using APDU, which means that it's the communication protocol dependent. What do I mean by that is, if I now lead again, but instead of scanning this type 4, I will scan the type 2, the little dot here. Yeah, you see it failed, because just now my code said that I only detect ISO 7816. I cannot interact with this. This is not APDU. If I send APDU, this guy will be silent. It will not send anything back to me. Okay, so let's go back to the slide. Yeah, and that's all I want to show today. So we cover quite a lot of things. I was trying to squeeze 3 iOS API into one session. So we have the NDEF reader, you read and write. You have the background tag reading, where you just scan any NDEF tag without application running. You can use that to, let's say, to promote your app, to launch the app store, to install the application. So you can do that with the background tag. And the last one, you have more advanced API to lead any NFC tag. So this one, the common similarity with all this is the iPhone itself is a leader. If you notice what I showed so far, the iPhone itself is a leader. It's not the tag. And that is all the API in this 11, 12, and 13 iOS. But recently, I will not cover in this. I will just give a sneak peek that recently, last year, in the iOS 17.4, iOS 18.1, iOS 26, there is a new feature that allows the iPhone to become the card. There are constraints, but this capability is not added before. So now the iPhone can become the card. It's just that for the card, it need to be in the Europe. For the iOS 18, there is a secure element. So there are a lot of constraints because it makes sense. The card is very secure. You cannot just allow anyone to have access to the phone as a card without proper management. And that's all the security. But we have the recent update from Apple that support that. And that one will cover in the future. Other than that, yeah, that's all I want to share today.